say, well, that might be easier for you to do because you know him in a way that I don't know him. But you're not without excuse that you can't know him like I know him. You know him by accepting him. And it doesn't matter if you've known him 20 years, if you've known him 20 seconds. He's the same 20 seconds God to you like he is to me. I've known him for over 40 years. To be the same yesterday, today, and forever. And you never come too new into Christ that God doesn't treat you fairly like anybody else. So I want you to turn to Numbers 23rd chapter, 19th verse. And then I'm going to ask you to ask the person next to you a personal question. Read in Numbers 23:19.
God is not a man.
God is not a man. God is not a man. But the Bible said God is a spirit. And they that worship him have to worship him in spirit and in truth. And Jesus said to the disciples, said, the Father seeketh such that should worship him and worship him in spirit and in truth. So the word says that God is not a man.
That he should lie.
That he should lie.
Neither the Son of Man.
That he would what?
That he should repent.
Now, he's not a man that he should lie. Look at the person next to you and say, are you a man? And ask him if they've sifted his body, say, have you ever lied before? So that lets you know you're not God. That wasn't to put us down, but to bring us to a point of reality that we cannot stand in the equality of God. That God is greater, so great that he even created the universe in which we live, and move, and have our being. So he has really said in his message today, I want you to trust me because of my sovereignty. God said, I'm a God, I know everything. He said, I knew you before you were born in your mother's womb. He said, I know the thoughts you think before you think them. I know your afterthoughts. And God said, I'm all-knowing. He said, I'm all-powerful. And he said, I'm all-present. I'm present in everywhere at the same time. You and me today are limited because we're present right here. But God was present with you when you rode on the van to get here. He was present with you before you ever got on the van to get on the van to get here. He was present from the place that you left. So God is ever present. He's an omnipresent God. And knowing that, that gives me now a truth about him that he said he cannot lie. That now I can put a sense of trust in him that I cannot put in man because you're not all-knowing. You're not omnipresent. Right? Because if you're all-knowing, some things you got into, you never got into, but you knew not to do it. So we're not all-knowing. There's things I got into that God knew what I said after I got into it. If I knew then what I know now, I would have never done that. I would have never crossed that bridge, which you didn't know. But God's all-knowing. He says in the book of Jeremiah 29:11, he said, I know the plans or the thoughts that I have for you. Thoughts of good and not for evil, but to give you an expected end. God has already thought out your end of what it should be before you can think about it to bring it to pass what you think it's going to be. That's just how all-knowing that he is. So the opening text scripture, trusting God, said God is not a man. Read.
That he should lie.
That he should lie. So let me ask you, why would God even have the reason to lie? Because people lie out of fear. They lie out of fear because they're afraid of the end result of what they're going to get if they lie. So God is not a God that can do anything where anybody can judge him and who he is. So he would have no reason to lie. There's some things that God cannot do. One of them is he cannot lie. Read.
Neither son of man.
Neither the son of man, neither the son of the flesh, what?
That he should repent.
That he has to repent. Read.
Hath he said.
Hath he said it?
And shall he not do it?
And shall he not do what he says? He has to. Because if he didn't, then we could identify him as a liar. And God said, I'm going to do exactly what I tell you I'm going to do. Even when you don't agree with it, I'm going to do it. See, God does things for us that we need to do that we don't want him to do, because when he does it, it makes us change more to the liking of God instead of the liking of ourselves. Y'all clear with that? He said he's not the Son of Man and he's got to repent. What?
Hath he said?
Hath he said?
And shall he not do it?
Shall he not do it?
Or hath he spoken?
Or has he spoken?
And shall he not make it good?
And make it good. He said heaven and earth would pass away before one jot or tittle of God's word would fail. Now, when you talk about the jot and the tittle, that is the emphasis that he places on the word he speaks, and even so truthful, even in the tone in which he speaks. He said, not even the emphasis and the tone of what I speak is going to fail. When I speak a word in anger, anger is going to happen. If I speak a word in joy, in the tone of joy, joy is going to take place. But you said heaven and earth will pass away before one jot of a tittle of the word will fail. And you know why you know that's true? Because you came in here on his earth this morning. So let you know that his word has not failed. Read.
Behold,
Look. The word behold means to look.
I have received commandment to bless,
Yes.
and he hath blessed, and I cannot reverse it.
Now this, I wouldn't really go into the next verse because it makes me explain to you what it means. He is now speaking. There was a prophet that was spoken to speak a word against God's people to destroy them. And God told the prophet, said, don't you speak that word, because I'm not going to destroy them. So he goes back to the king and tells the king, I can't speak what God has told me not to speak. He said he's going to bless him, and he's going to bless him. And so in many words, the prophet was saying to the king, I don't care, and I don't care if you are king. He will do what he said. Read.
Verse 21.
Yes.
He hath not beheld iniquity
No, he has not beheld iniquity in what?
in Jacob.
In this man called Jacob. We're living in a day, and it's hard to know who to trust and what to trust. Every one of us in this building are on the same equal basis that we deal with people and systems and things, and they tell you certain things and you struggle with the fact, is that really true? Especially if a system or someone has duped you before. It's hard to go back to trust what they have to say because they're always thinking about the underlying motive of why they're saying what they're saying to you. So all of us who live in that same capacity in life, in society, that we're wondering who we can really trust. You know why? Because sometimes we can't even trust ourselves. So if you're struggling with others trusting, that means you're struggling with yourself to trust yourself. Because you and I have done things that we told ourselves, I wouldn't even do that. And we believe we couldn't do it until we've done it. Right? So what drove us? It was the emotions and passions and feelings and what we thought we knew about that particular thing, that because of the way it made us feel, we went on and went into it, not realizing the repercussions that would occur after it was all finished. How many of you from the other said, if I would have known differently, I would have done differently? Be honest. If I'd have known differently, I would have done differently. So that tells me that you and me are limited, that we don't know. But we need to consult God who do knows. The Bible says in the book of Proverbs, it says, in all of our ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct our paths. In all of our ways acknowledge Him, even in the very simplistic things that we think, I don't need to ask ask God. I've got enough intelligence to do that. But there's to be some simple stuff that got us in some difficult stuff. But at the time we were looking at the mirror, it seemed so simple, it seemed so obvious, it seemed like that was what I ought to do. But God already, see, what happens is this. You do not know the intricate details of things that go on in life. Most of the things we deal with is what on the surface and how we feel about it. But God knows the intricate details of the outcomes of things, and He views it totally different than what we view it. Because He said, my ways are not your ways, my thoughts are not your thoughts. I'm God, you're human. You see one way, I see from eternity. You see from temporariness. You basically see from the things you've experienced. And God said, I see from the things I created, which came out of me. So I see out of me. None of us in here can create anything. Now, we can only invent something from what God has created. All the greatest inventors had to invent from something that God created. If God had never created it, could have never invented it. Huh? Wow. Think about it. So if Edison, who invented the light, if God had never created light, He couldn't have it in use. Or the one who created electricity, if God had not created the world for it to be electric, He could not have done that. And if God had not created the lightning to flash, then the inventor would not know I can use the flashing of the lightning to create electricity. So see how independent we are on God when we don't think so? We're absolutely dependent on God, and I'm glad I'm dependent on God who knows everything. I've got some things right now that in my mind I'm assuming and trying to figure out, but God already knows what it's going to be. And He told me over there what it's going to be. He said, as I work all things together for the good. It looks bad, feels bad, but He said, I work it together for the good. To them that are called according to my purpose. According to my purpose. Trust is to have confidence. Having confidence in something means having an assurance that leads to an action. What would you need from a person to really trust them? What do you think you would need from a person to really trust them? Number one, you need involvement of time with them to see if they are trustworthy. You need time with them to communicate with them and see if they lie to you or if they're going to be true to you. That if they say, I'm going to be your friend until you get in trouble, and when you get in trouble, they won't call you on the phone. But at the time you were communicating, and it just seemed like they were your bosom buddies. Until your bosom got in trouble, and they jumped out of your bosom and something else. So what would we need from a person to really trust them? Think about it. What would I need from a person that I could trust them? You want evidence of their trustworthiness. That they will do exactly what they said they will do. Now here's something else that happens. Sometimes people can tell us they're going to do such and such and such and such, right? But they don't fulfill it because they didn't realize there were insinuating circumstances that was going to keep them from fulfilling that. But you trusted that they weren't going to do it because they said so. But what you were looking at is the insinuating circumstances that was keeping them from doing it. Right? And sometimes folk have told us things that let us down, and it's seemed like they lied to us. They didn't lie to us. Something happened that was out of their control that they could not change. Then we end up ending with the result of that. But see, with God, God has never and never will have any kind of insinuating circumstance that he don't have the control over, that he can't do what he says he's going to do. There is none. There is none on this earth. There is none in heaven. No type of insinuating circumstance that can occur that can keep God from doing what he says. Now, I'm looking at a passage of scripture here right quick. Here in a minute, I want you to trust the person who comes from spending time or having a relationship that is proven to be trustworthy. And you have found them to be untruthful in their sayings and their doings. You found them to be, as best as you know, in their power to be true. So you trust them. Have you ever trusted somebody and they let you down? Was that all that person thought to let you down, or did you have something to contribute to that? Huh? We had something we contributed to that. It wasn't just the person letting us down, it was us letting ourselves down for putting that kind of trust in a person that could not prove to be what he said or she was going to be. And many times when that happens, we take out negative feelings on the person when we should have some concerning ourselves. Wow. I've run through life. I've been preaching for 47 years. And I thought something, you're going to find people that's going to use you. And you feel bad after they use you. But this may sound crazy, but in my life, I allowed people to use me so I could find out what I needed to find out to go further. So I didn't feel bad because they used me, because I allowed them to use me for the purpose of my gain. Maybe I never thought about that, but I allowed people to use me. And I knew they were using me. But knowing they were using me was telling me that there was going to be an outcome to that was going to be to my benefactor. Some folk have used me to my greatest blessing. Some folk have used me to my greatest deliverance. Wow. Go to Psalms 118, verse 8 and 9. Psalm 118, verse 8 and 9. Can someone give me the time? I'm trying to stay on time.
It's 12:20.
12:20? All right. Give me a clue, 45 minutes. Let's look at the thank yous. I'm going to stay. Don't give me a thought. I think it's no time. Psalms 118. Verse 8 and 9.
It is better to trust in the Lord than to put confidence in man.
See, that is better to trust in the Lord than to put confidence in man. Now, the Bible's not telling us not to trust people. But you can't afford to allow to trust a human being that would put your life at stake. Or trust a human being that would put your well-being at stake. Got it? Because he does want us to put our trust in people. But he wants us to have that limited and balance that we don't trust people more than we trust him. Because God knows something about the people you trust that you don't know, that you trust him. Read.
Verse 9. It is better to trust in the Lord.
It's better to trust in the Lord
than to put confidence in princes.
Now, he uses princes, people of power. princes of personal power. Sometimes we think we can trust people because they're positioned in a place of power. But people in power can let you down. They can allow their power to drive them into a place or a way they should not, and now cause you not to trust them. Proverbs 28 and 26, read that. And I want to take you to this passage of Scripture. I always love to go back to the Bible and pull characters out of the Bible that shows us that they were human just like we're human. They responded to things just like we respond to things. But I also like to teach you how they connected themselves to God to get the victories that they got, so we can learn how to connect ourselves to God like they did to get what we need from God. So the Bible should be relative to us. It should be a book where it's taught out that you can find, I can relate to that and cause my life to be lived in that way. Read.
Verse 26. He that trusted in his own heart is a fool.
He that trusts in his own heart is a fool. And we have trusted in our own heart and got foolish things. Right? He that trusted in his own heart. That's why he said in Proverbs, trust in the Lord with all thine heart. Trust in the Lord. Don't trust in your own heart. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and he shall direct thy path. Read.
But whoso walketh wisely, he shall be delivered.
He that walketh wisely. To walk wisely, you can't walk in a haste. You have to take your time, walk, and be aware or cognizant of the things that's going on around you. Be cognizant of the people that you're involved in your life. You need to pay attention of how you feel around certain people when you constantly interact with them. If you're constantly picking up something just a little bit negative, pay attention to that because it's real. You can't just brush that off the, oh, that's just the way it is. Well, that might be the way it is, but that's what you're going to get is the way it is. So you have to pay attention. I pay attention. When people hold a conversation with me, I pay attention to what they're saying. Because they're telling me things that they don't even realize they're telling me. And I know when people's talking to me, trying to influence my intelligence to lean toward what they really want, or if they really want truth for what it is. We need to want truth for really what it is, even when it's not comfortable for us. Because the Bible says, you shall know truth, and the truth will set you free. Is it all that verse said?
Yes, sir.
All right. Here's what I want you to do real quick. I want you to turn with me to the book of Daniel. And we want to look at this character by the name of Daniel. Daniel was in his homeland of Israel, and this king invaded their homeland and took Daniel and some Hebrew young men as captives. And Daniel, in his homeland, and these Hebrew young boys, held a prominent place in their kingdom where they lived. They were actually classified as scholars to the king, to inform the king about things that the king would come and ask them concerning. The king would come and ask these men and say, I had this dream. What does this dream mean? And these men were so gifted by God that they could interpret dreams and give messages to the king. And when this king Nebuchadnezzar overtook their king and their land, they didn't kill those young boys, they captured them because they knew how vital they were. So they captured them, and the king Nebuchadnezzar put Daniel and 3 other Hebrew boys in
What chapter, sir?
Chapter 1, verse 8.
But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself.
Now, it gets a little ahead. I'm getting a little ahead, so let me back up tracks. For when these young men came into the kingdom of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar had his own astrologers, his own wise men, and so forth and so on. And so these young men, when they came in, they felt the competition. That maybe these boys were wiser than they was, and maybe the king would favor them over them. So the king, when they came, the first thing he wanted to do is sit down. I want to feed you my food so I can rise you up and then you can be like the men that we have here. But we find first off, Daniel said, I refuse. I refuse to eat what the king is going to give me, because if I eat what the king gives me and I begin to tell the king things he did not know, he would take it for granted that he was the one that caused my intelligence. So Daniel starts saying, I'm not doing it because I'm not going to let the king steal the glory of God that's upon my life. Because God has taken care. I've trusted God. And so read, watch this.
But Daniel purposed in his heart.
He purposed in his heart
That he would not defile
that
himself.
he would not defile himself
With the portion of the king's meat.
with the portion of the king's food. Read.
Nor with the wine which he drank.
He said, nor with the wine. But Daniel purposed himself. I'm going to trust God. I'm not going to allow this king to take advantage of what God has done inside of me to make me who I am. I'm trusting him. Read.
Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs.
Now he was wrong, because really he's denying a command from the king, which he could have been killed for. But he trusted God so much. If I even command something different, you're going to kill me, but I still won't be serving you. So he makes a request to the king and says what?
That he might not defile himself.
That he would not defile. And he speaks this openly to the king. He said, I'm not going to defile myself. I'm not going to come here and not put the trust in the God that I had when I came here. Read.
Now God had brought Daniel into favor.
Yes.
And tender love with the prince of the eunuchs.
Now, this is powerful. Here he is in the king's palace serving the king. But because Daniel trusted God so, God allowed favor to fall upon the men who were serving the king. And when he reads right here, he said he found favor with the eunuchs in the king's palace. Which means not only was Daniel directly saying something to the king, but the king's favorite men were speaking in behalf of Daniel. It's all because you trust God. Read.
Verse 10. And the prince of the eunuchs said unto Daniel,
Yes.
I fear my lord the king, who hath appointed your meat and your drink.
He said, I fear the king because he's appointed this, and if I don't follow it, he can kill me. I fear him because he can, but we don't see that fear in Daniel, do we? Read.
For why should he see your faces worse like him than the children which
So
are
if we
so?
don't need this, why should the king see you worse than we are? So if he sees that, he's really going to kill me because I was told to feed you the king's portion, and now you're saying you're not going to eat it. Read.
Then shall he make me endanger my head
Now,
to
we're
the king.
trusting God. Watch this. Here's the lesson. We're trusting God. Sometimes you have to defy the advice of somebody else. You have to defy what You got to divide their fears. See, these eunuchs had the fear of dying, and they were sharing with Daniel. But Daniel trusted God, so he divided even what they feared. The greatest thing he feared was God. Read.
Then said Daniel to Melchizedek, whom the prince of the eunuchs had set over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah.
Yes.
Prove thy servants, I beseech thee, 10 days.
Now, listen to this. Daniel said, now I know you fear the king, whatever, and you may not look as healthy as the rest of the king's servants. Prove us, just give us 10 days. And let us only eat what we're accustomed to. And you guys go and eat what y'all are told the kings to eat. Just trust us. Now, we hear Daniel's telling them, trust the God I'm trusting. I know what 10 days, I know it's going to be. Read.
Prove thy servants.
Prove thy servants.
I beseech thee. 10 days.
10 days.
And let them give us pulse to eat.
And let them give us just more or less soup. A little grain in it. You guys are running the delicacies off the king's table. And all we want is just water, a little flour, and seed called pulse. Let us eat that. Read.
Verse 13. Then let our countenance be.
Then you come and check it out. Read.
Then let our countenance be looked upon before thee. And the countenance of the children that eat of the portion of the king's meat. And as thou seest, deal with thy servants.
Now, as you see it, you deal with it. But here's what really Daniel was saying. Let us trust God. And you trust who you're going to trust. Let's see who comes out on top. And somebody didn't tell people, I'm going to trust God, you trust who you want to trust. Let's see what happens. Huh? Read.
Verse 14. So he consented to them.
He consented.
In this manner.
Yes.
And proved them 10 days.
And proved them 10 days. I'd like to remember like a little fly on the wall. Because from day one, Daniel and the Hebrew boys were looking a certain way. But each day it progressed. Their countenance, their physicalness, their body, texture, and everything began to change a little bit right before their eyes. Read.
At the end of the 10 days.
At the end of the 10 days.
Their countenances changed, appeared fair and fatter in flesh.
They look better than the king. People who've been eating all that delicacy on the table, all that fruit and the land, and all that stuff that was prepared. And all these boys was eating was just like water and cornmeal mixed together. But see, what they didn't realize, the cornmeal and the water mixed that they were eating, God was in it. The nutrition of God's power was in that. Woo! Read.
Their countenances appeared fairer.
They appeared fairer
and fatter.
And fatter
in flesh.
In the flesh.
And all the children which did eat of the portion of the king's.
Now, what the children of what the king ate, listen what happened to them.
Thus Melchizedek took away the portion of their meat and the wine that they should drink.
He looked at his own and said, no, this ain't doing y'all good. Let me take that away from you. Y'all need to eat what these Hebrew boys are eating. But see, they were just not eating what they chose to eat. They were eating in belief that God was greater than the God of the heathens. So their faith caused them to, when they ate, change their countenance, their body texture. That's why we got to trust God. Read.
And gave them pulse.
And gave them. Now he turned around and said, okay, Y'all don't get no more of this skimmed meat. All the delicacies of wine and all of that finest that's here in this kingdom. Y'all gonna start eating this water with cornmeal and stuff, just like they did. Huh? But wait, Daniel and them had not trusted God. How were they able to persuade them to do something different? So when you trust God, you can persuade somebody else to do something different because God, trusting Him, will prove out to you that He is God for you. Wow. Wow. I want you to turn with me over just a little bit further. It's not sure about the truth. But I want you to turn with me to a portion of Scripture where they made decrees for them to very easy to everybody lie down. And they said that the mountain was going to throw them into the fire furnace. I think it's just a few chapters. Anyone found that? You know what it's at? Yes. Go to the third chapter. That's what it's at. Third chapter. Now you think it was something just over food that showed the trust in God that changed everybody's life around. I want to give you something else that was more traumatic. That was actually literally life-threatening to these Hebrew boys. In chapter 3, I want you to pick up at verse 11, please.
And whoso faileth not, and whoso falleth not down and worshipeth.
Now, this here right that verse is telling us that there was a setup. Because in the kingdom where they were held captives, they knew that Daniel and these 3 Hebrew boys would change their names to the country they were called Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And Daniel, they knew they worshiped God. They never stopped worshiping God. Daniel 3 times a day would get into his window chamber and turn toward Jerusalem where he had been captivated from, and he would pray unto God. And they knew that. So now they're trying to destroy Daniel. Went to the king and said, now, if there's anybody here in your kingdom that when music is played and they don't fall down and bow and worship you, you need to destroy them. They were setting this up to get Daniel and these 3 Hebrew boys killed. And that's where this verse gets up real.
And whoso falleth not down and worshipeth, that he should be cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace.
Yes.
There are certain Jews whom thou hast set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not regarded thee. They serve not thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up.
Read on.
Then Nebuchadnezzar, in his rage and fury, commanded to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then they brought these men
Now,
before
because of the manipulation of the king's men, now they have put the king in a position to destroy the best men in his kingdom that could speak things that the others could not speak, could see things that the others could not see, because the favor of God was not on them. So now they can visit the king to destroy them. Read.
Verse 14, Nebuchadnezzar spake and said unto them, Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego?
Now the king confronts them. Now if they hadn't trusted God, he feared their lives. You know, we didn't say that. They misunderstood us. Now, this is what they say when they ask them to read.
Do not ye serve my gods, nor worship the golden image which I have set up. Now if ye be ready, that at what time ye hear the
Here's
sound.
what I want you to do. Go down to verse 16. We cut across a little bit quickly. When the king asked him this question, look how they responded in verse 16.
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king,
Okay?
we are not careful
We
to
are not
answer
careful to answer you.
in this matter.
We're not going to mingle with our words with you. No, we're not doubting. We're not trusting you. We're trusting God. So you got to do what you got to do. Because you already knew if they didn't bow when the music played, they would get thrown into the fire furnace. They knew about the furnace because others had been thrown in there. Oh, they knew. But they said, we're not careful to answer you. We're not going to mingle our words with you. Matter of fact, we're not afraid of you. Because we're not trusting you. We're not careful to answer you in this matter. Read.
If it be so,
if it be so that you do,
our God whom we serve
the God whom we serve
is able to deliver us
to deliver us
from the burning fire furnace.
from the burnt. Watch this. Even if you throw us in the fire, the God we're trusting can release us out of the fire. Huh? That's trust. Be something they're going to throw us in the furnace. I'm sure it's so powerful. We don't know what's this.
And he will deliver us out of thine hand, O king.
Yes.
But if not, be it known unto thee, O
Be it
king,
known unto thee,
that we will not serve
we will not serve your gods. We're not going to worship the golden image which you have set before us. Read this. Watch this. I'm sure it's on the
Then was Nebuchadnezzar full of fear.
He was angry. He was angry because for them, slaves were speaking his face like they did, and they were slaves, and he was the king, and now they're openly defying. That would be just like if you stand in the president of the United States, and the president asks you a question, knowing that if you don't answer right, you can be killed. You say, oh, Mr. President. But they didn't mingle their word because they trusted God's. Read.
Then was Nebuchadnezzar full of fear,
Yes.
and the form of his visage was changed
Yes.
against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Therefore he spake,
He spake.
and commanded that they should be heat the furnace 7 times more
Now,
hot than
watch
before.
this. Watch this. Nebuchadnezzar had already been affected by the power of Daniel and those 3 Hebrew boys. He'd already seen it. Because this is the first time in burning somebody up, he never told them to heat the furnace hotter. Because the king didn't know, maybe they might get out of this because they've gotten out of other things. So let's turn the heat up 7 times hotter than it ought to be. Watch, read.
And he commanded the most mighty men
And he took the most mighty men because he wanted to make sure they wasn't going to run and escape. He took the most mighty men. Catch the picture now. I'm going to show you about trusting God. Read.
that were in the army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and cast them into the burning fire furnace.
Yes.
Then these men were bound in their coats, their hosen.
Now they're talking about Daniel and these Hebrew boys. That they were bound in their clothes.
Their hosen,
Yes.
and their hats,
Yes.
and their other garments.
They were fully dressed to be destroyed. Read.
And were cast into the midst of the burning fire.
And they were cast in the midst of the burning fire. Read.
Therefore, because the king's commandment was urgent, in the furnace exceeding hot,
Now watch this. Listen to this.
the
Wait a
flame.
minute. Can I want you to listen to this? This is important. They cast them into the furnace that was heated 7 times hotter than before. But look what happens in verse Read on in the next verse. Watch this.
Therefore, because
22, verse 22. Watch.
Therefore, because of the king's commandment was urgent, and the furnace exceeding hot,
So that's hot.
the flame of the fire slew those men that.
Watch it. Wait. The burning was so hot, it killed the men who threw the boys in there. So you would think if they throw these boys in there, they should have been consumed because it even killed the men who threw them in. Wow, read.
The flame of the fire slew those men that took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these three men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down bound.
Wow. They didn't fall down all the way bound because of the fire. They fell down bound because they was worshiping their God in the fire. Say, because I'm trusting God, I can bow my knee to God in the worst of my adversity. Even when something is meant to take me out, and they throw me into something that's meant to take me out, I'm still going to trust the God, even in the midst of my traumatic situation. Read.
And these three men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down bound in the midst of the burning fire. And Nebuchadnezzar, the king, was astonished.
He's astonished because here they are, thrown in the fire. His men got killed just from the heat that came out of the furnace. But these men are down inside of the fire on their knees. Still wearing the same clothes. The clothes ain't burned, ain't nothing burned, but they're bound down in these natural clothes that should have been burned up in the fire, right? But now we see the fire, which was heated 7 times hotter, had no effect on men who were trusting God. Right, great.
Then Nebuchadnezzar the king was astonished.
He was astonished.
And rose up in haste, and spake, and said unto his counselors, Did not we cast 3 men
Did we throw
bound?
in 3 men? Did we throw in? Because our men got killed. So we could count them. We only threw in 3. Read.
They answered and said unto the king,
And they answered to the king,
True, O king.
True, O king. And what did he say in verse 25?
Lo, I see 4 men.
I see 4 in there. I see 4 in there. Wow. So the 4th one had the power over the flames of the fire. And the 4th man that was in the fire was the one they would bow down and worship him to. They told the king, we won't bow down to you, but we'll bow down to our God, even in the midst of the furnace. Woo, God. Come on. What you gonna do when you get thrown into the heat of something? Are you gonna bow down and get into it? Or are you gonna begin to worship and trust God that in spite of it, that you're gonna say, no weapon formed against me is going to prosper. And when you're going to be thrown into something, you don't have to figure how to talk your way out of it. Because I'm trusting God. They said, we won't communicate with you, king, but we will communicate with the 4th one in the fire. The 4th one showed up so we could have church in the fire. So we could have praise and worship in the fire. Read.
Lo, I see 4 men loose.
I see, they're what?
Loose.
They were bound when they were thrown in, right? But they're loose. How did they get loose? This is an analogy. Maybe the 4th man went around in a town. But they were loose. But they were really thrown down, right? Watch this. Read.
Walking in the midst of the fire.
Walking in the midst of the fire, and you can't stick your finger in the fire and keep it there. Can you? You're going to jerk it out because it's painful. But they're walking around in the fire and they're not making no sound. There's no pain, no nothing. Walking around in the midst of the fire. And only because they were trusting God. Said, we will not bow to you. If you throw us in that furnace, we're still not going to bow to you. Because our God is able to deliver. So Daniel must have something in their mind of trust that if you throw us in the flames, we know another fire that's greater than this earthly fire. Huh? We know another fire. If you throw us in, we're going to trust who's in it already. If you throw me into this situation, I'm going to trust the God that's in me to take care of me in the midst of this situation.
And they have no hurt. And the form of the fourth is like the sea.
This is what the Bible said. They were walking around, they were loose, clothes weren't burned, hair wasn't singed, no blisters on their hands. Huh? Matter of fact, the Bible said they didn't even smell like smoke. Trusting God took the stench out of their situation. They didn't even smell like destruction. Huh? They didn't even smell like they went through anything. Huh? So when you trust in God and take you to do something, you'll come out smelling like pure gold. You'll come out smelling like a rose, a mighty rose of Sharon. And you'll smell like you never went through anything. And people that know you, when they see you, they'll be astonished. How did they go through that? How did they come out of that thing like that? Only the God that you trust, only the God that you can serve can do what He's done. These are actual men of a time. Actually thrown into a furnace, fire heated 7 times the normal. But God deals out of the abnormal. He took the normal and changed it to abnormal. They were walking in the fire like they was walking in an air-conditioned furnace. Read.
Verse 26. And Nebuchadnezzar came near the mouth of the burning fire furnace.
Yes.
And spake and said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Let me show you something. Even Nebuchadnezzar got a touch of the blessing of the men who were trusting God. Because the first men that threw him in, the flame killed them. But when Nebuchadnezzar came in to look, the flame had been brought down to where he could look in and see. Because Nebuchadnezzar should have been killed like the men that threw the boys in. But when he looked in, the God they trusted turned the temperature down. Because God wanted Nebuchadnezzar, I want you to see this. Huh? Read.
Ye servants of the Most High God.
Now listen. You know what he says? He says to these men who have died him, so we're not going to bow down and worship you. This is the king who serves idol gods and golden images. And listen to what he says to these boys in this furnace. That the trust of these young men was so powerful, it was even changing the mind of the king, changing his vocabulary, changing the way he talked. Listen to what he said. Read.
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Back up.
Then Nebuchadnezzar came
near
the mouth of the burning fire.
Yes, and what did he say?
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, ye servants of the Most High God.
Oh, you servants of the Most High God. Now I see why you trust Him. Because I told you in the furnace, burnt my men up, and you still walking around here loose like ain't nothing ever happened to you. You must be servants of the Most High God. You got a God that you can trust, that can bring you out of anything. And I'm here to tell you today that the God that you can serve, that can bring you out of any situation. It doesn't matter how the system may try to set you up to fail. God has a way to bring you through. God can speak to people's mind and change mind. You don't need a whole bunch of people in your corner. All you need is just one person with a favor on your life, and he can change the whole thing for you. All that the Hebrew boy needed was one person in their life, and that was the Son of the living God. And the Son of the living God changed the whole situation. Wow. Now you can see when I'm excited. Because I was sitting there, Sister Nana, and I was reading this. And the Lord spoke to me and said, right now, they're trying to take you into a den of fire. He said, but just like with the Hebrew boys. I got a word for you, sister. When you go into the furnace next week, God's already going to be in you. Right. Just like God disrupted the intelligence of the king, he's going to disrupt the intelligence of these people who are trying to consume you. But you say, I'm trusting God no matter what. Do what you think you can do, but I know what my God can do. And you say, I don't have to fear you because God's greater than you. You don't have to fear what man can do unto you because God is greater. We're talking about this morning, trusting God. Trusting God. Read it. I'm closing.
Ye servants of the Most High God.
Yes.
Come forth and come hither.
Come forth and come in. You servants of the Most High God. I want to meet you in the celebrity form that you're in. You're famous. Any human being that can defy fire, I want to meet them personally. I thought I knew you outside of the fire, but now you're a totally different person that has been in the fire, and I want to meet the people that's been in the fire. I want to meet the people that God has delivered out of the furnace. Because I don't want to feel the effects and the power that was on them, that God would deliver them in the midst of a traumatic situation. Say, he did it for them. He can do it for me. He did it for them. He can do it for me. Wow. I'm here to tell you that God wants to deliver you. Out of the midst of the furnaces of the situations that you're going through, it may seem like the heat's up. But turn the heat up. It's not affecting God. Huh? Read on, close it.
Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came forth to the midst of the
Did I get
fire.
your family right? Did you give it to me? You didn't give it to me? You get so caught up in the message you didn't give it. Huh? Oh, I got 3 more minutes. All right. Hey, 3 more minutes. Y'all see, y'all thought I forgot that. I'm looking at the expression of your faces as I'm ministering the word of God, and I'm looking over at the time, and I can see her do that. So we got 3 more minutes to talk about trusting God. Trusting God. Watch this. These 3 minutes can be the most powerful 3 minutes in your life. These 3 minutes can be the most life-changing 3 minutes in your life if you will trust God within these 3 minutes. If you just say, God, I need you. I need you, God. I've done things, I've tried things, I've pursued this, I've pursued that, and it doesn't seem like it's coming together. But God, I'm going to trust you. Just like you did it with the human beings back there thousands of years ago. You said you're the same yesterday, today, and forever. You said you're a God that changed not. I'm not a God that can lie. I can deliver you out of the furnace of your situation right now. I don't care how hot the flames may seem to be. He said, if you will trust me, he said, if you go in it by faith, he said, I'll go in it with you. So he says, servants, you servants of the Most High God, come forth. Come hither. Instead of me worshiping you, instead of you worshiping me, let me worship you. Because your God has proved something to you that my God has never proved to me. Right now, God saved my men from getting killed. And they just walked up and opened the door to throw you in. How come my God did it? And here you are walking in the midst of that same flame, and your clothes is not burned, the ropes is off your arms, there are no burn marks, no blisters, your hair is not singed. The king said, you don't even smell like smoke. Wow. You servants of the Most High God, come forth. The Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came forth of the midst of the fire. Let me show you something. The king called them out of the thing that he called them to go into to destroy. He called them out of it. He said, come here. I'm the one that caused that I sent you here, but now, because I see how you trust God, come out of it. That's not where you belong. Wow. Read.
Verse 27. The princes,
1 minute. Okay, step the finger. Read on.
princes, governors, and captains, and the king's councils, being gathered together, saw these men upon whose bodies the fire had no power, nor was the hair
on their head singed,
neither were their coats changed,
neither did their coats get burnt,
nor the smell of fire.
See that? I wasn't just making this up. And you put a match in your coat and see what happens. And especially put a match in your coat and you hit it. Huh? But the clothes that they put on the God was so powerful that God had power even in the material of what was covering his people. God. Don't take that revelation. God can be in the very material thing that covers you to bless you. So in other words, trusting God, God can and will protect you and keep you even in the midst of what the enemy is trying to do to destroy you. Huh? You know what he's trying to do? Destroy. Too many musicians who come across it. You have another spot? What are we talking about today? How many of you have ever seen that in the Bible before? Seen that before? Or was it ever brought to you like it was brought to you? It was brought to you today like you were standing right there. You was like a bystander watching all this take place. And that's the way the Word of God ought to be for me. We ought to be like bystanders and see what God was doing in the lives of those thousands of years ago to let you know that He's the same God for you as He was for them. Whatever you need, God's got it. Oh, He's waiting to give it to you. Who are you trusting? Who are you trusting? Who are you trusting? Now I'm going to ask the question, who should you trust? Who should you trust? Yes. child. Say, Lord, I'm giving this to you. I need something.